within our university, about 4,000 students total at the university. And within my classes, it's just about 30 students. So the general chemistry class size is a little smaller, which is really nice.
That's what I love about teaching chemistry. You're talking and you're learning along with your students how tiny things make a really big impact. So I think it'll be interesting to talk about what it's like to serve both those populations and what can we learn from those various contexts. Hey everyone, welcome to EdTech Elevated. I am Dr. Elaine Villanueva Bernal. I am a lecturer teaching for almost 20 years at California State University, Long Beach, and we have Dr. Ashley Evanoski-Cole with us from Westfield University. And today we're going to be talking about the different contexts in which we teach our classes. Ashley, tell me a little bit about your context, your institution.
All right, thank you. So thanks for having me. And I am an instructor of chemistry at Westfield State University in Western Massachusetts. And I have been teaching general chemistry, analytical chemistry classes, and meteorology classes as well. And I primarily teach general chemistry classes, and within our university, we have a pretty small class size, which is really nice, about 4,000 students total at the university. And within my classes, it's just about 30 students for the lectures, 18 students for the lab sections. So a nice intimate group of students to work with.
That's awesome, Ashley. And then just for a little bit of contrast from my end, we actually serve total at California State University, Long Beach. We have 41,000 students. I believe that is the highest student population we've had since the founding of our campus in 1949. And then also, I have 210 students in my class. Last several semesters, I used to have about 300, 400 students at a given semester. And I also teach online. I do teach, I've taught synchronous and asynchronous modalities. And so it's going to be a very interesting conversation. And as far as sharing and navigating how we've used Real Chem, how we engage our students, and how we work with them to make those connections to chemistry.
Yeah, so I was always interested in chemistry. I always loved the weather. So that moment when I found out that atmospheric chemistry was a thing, I was like, this is for me. I know this is for
Right?
me. But then there was like one class I can point to in
Okay.
my undergraduate studies about air quality that really inspired me. So it was not just the science behind air quality, but it also incorporated the history and a little bit about the policy as well. So it really helped me to put the context of, I'm really interested in the chemistry behind air quality, but how is that important? How is that applied to make effective policies and, to impact people in the end?
That's really great that you shared that. I love that you shared that you found the connection between the chemistry itself and then the history and the policy and how that fits into everything, right? So tell me a little bit more about what intrigued you, what got your attention as far as the history and the policy making when it comes to air quality.
Yeah, so I really enjoy studying the chemistry and like how being able to really think about what's happening all around you. So, right, we have
Yeah.
air all around us right now and you can't see
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
it's really cool to think about like zooming in on the molecular level, like what actually is happening. So even on a day where it looks like it could be very good air quality, right, you can't see what's around you, but you still might be impacted by something that you can't see. So that was really interesting to me. And then just being able to do all that really cool stuff in the lab and out in the field,
Yeah.
collect those measurements. But then how is it actually practical to, the broader society? So being able to connect it to, this good information that we get from all of these studies, the science can go into making these really effective policies to regulate air quality in an effective way and make the air healthier for people to breathe.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that you took us through that trajectory of what it's like to work in the lab, to that the chemistry part of things is crucial to inform how is it that we protect people's health, right? And then how do we create safety, and protect people's health around that. So yeah, so what I'm hearing is that chemistry, you're working with things that you can't see. You're working with tiny things, and that's what I love about teaching chemistry. You're talking and you're learning along with your students how tiny things make a really big impact. So we're going to segue into talking a little bit about Real Chem, and how that is a platform to help students think around, really, really tiny things and how they make a big impact. So my understanding is that this is your first time using RealChem. Tell us about your use in RealChem for your general chemistry class.
Yeah, so this is the first semester I've used Real Chem in my General Chemistry 1
Mm-hmm.
classroom. And the rollout has been really easy. So it was really easy to be able to fit the content in Real Chem to my flipped classroom approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like the students to come in each class period having already looked through the material a little bit. And Real Chem has been a really good way for the students to get that introductory look into all of the material. And then we spend in class time working together in groups, actively working with the material, making those connections between these, abstract chemistry concepts, things that you can't see,
Yeah.
into connections of things that we care about. So things that the students can relate to.
Boost your company's digital presence with Partner in Publishing. We leverage proven strategies to expand your reach and increase sales. Whether you're a startup or an established business, we tailor our digital marketing strategies to meet your specific needs. From search engine optimization and high conversion digital ads to organic social media and targeted email marketing, we employ essential marketing strategies to achieve your mission and deliver impactful results. Partner with us to meet and exceed your sales and marketing goals and stand out in the education sector. Learn more at partnerinpublishing.com.
I really appreciate that phrase that you said, connecting that things that we can't see to things that we care about. So where do you see students making those connections specifically, and perhaps a little bit about how RealChem was able to support that process?
So some of the features of Real Chem that I really enjoy, that I think the students find very beneficial, are the incorporation of those PHET simulations. So
Mm-hmm.
PHET simulations are something that I've actually used before. So I love that Real Chem has them like
Yeah.
built right in to the material. So the students can use those simulations to like play around with the ideal gas law is one that we just recently worked through. So they can alter the parameters of pressure and volume and number of moles in this really easy to use simulation to really
Mm-hmm.
visualize the changes of when you alter these parameters, how they change the system.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because I did the same thing with my class, a couple of weeks ago. We too also did the ideal gas law simulation for PHET, and then also we connected the theoretical, the parameters that this happens, that happens when you adjust these parameters, and then connecting it to the purple air, and seeing how ideal gas law corrections are definitely important in that process and reporting these numbers accurately. So yeah, I totally agree with you with PHET. It's something that I have been using for a long time as well. I've been a user since, oh my gosh, 2015, so the last 10 years. And to have this integrated as part of the RealChem platform, that was really useful because it was already something I was doing, right? And then here's just an added bonus as far as like a platform that puts everything together. Yeah, yeah. Um, and tell me about the group assignments that you mentioned. So you mentioned that you have perhaps a flipped classroom format, where you have the students do the work in the RealChem and then they do the activity in class. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I've spent a lot of times over the past, oh gosh, how many years developing these group activities for the students to work through in class. So I've really taken the time to scaffold them
Mm-hmm.
because students are coming into my class with a variety of different backgrounds, especially with math.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
spend a lot of times a lot of time scaffolding these assignments so I can kind of bring them in wherever they're at. So
Yeah.
helping with the math if need be, but really making sure everyone can get to connecting with the chemistry content. The other thing I really like to bring in with these group assignments is, working through some of these calculations, but also connecting it to something they might find interesting or something they might care about. So since we're talking about gas laws, one of the
Yeah.
examples that we just worked with was using the ideal gas law to calculate the volume of a weather balloon. So when they
Ah,
launch weather balloons, down on the surface, they're about like 6 foot in diameter. But as they
okay.
go up in the atmosphere, they expand. So we're able to use the ideal gas law to calculate how much that balloon expands as it goes up in the atmosphere. So they could get a kind of a visual on like how big these weather balloons get by using the content that we're going through in class.
That is definitely a very much, yes, real, and also it's a daily thing. Like, you check the weather every day, right? And then so it's really interesting to work with your students, right? Hey, here is this daily thing that shows up in your life, right? That is used to predict, detect the weather, and here we are working on the chemistry that allows this process to happen. I'm curious. So you mentioned that you serve several different majors within your general chemistry class. I'm curious if students have made perhaps some connections to what they're studying as far as their discipline, their specific major, along with with chemistry.
Yeah, so I do try to bring in a variety of examples. Like I am definitely partial to atmospheric or environmental examples of applications of chemistry because that's my passion. But I'm cognizant that that's not everyone's passion in my class. So I do also make sure to bring in other examples related to health science.
Mm-hmm.
Food chemistry examples are also a good one that I think appeals to most people to relate chemistry to food, like using, like we just talked about, enthalpy and
Mm-hmm.
thermochemistry concepts. So relating, calories, the
Mm-hmm.
calories that we consume to, how that relates to energy that we can calculate energies of reaction.
Awesome. And have you found using the Real Chem platform as useful, conducive to supporting that line of thinking? Like, okay, well, here's this enthalpy thing, right? And here's calories, and we break the bonds, we form the bonds, and the energy is released, and then we calculate, right? And then how has the Real Chem platform been useful in that process?
So I think just giving lots of different varieties of
Mm,
examples within the content, within the module content in RealChem, but also within the like exploration activities. So those connect
hmm
in the exploration activities, of course, that connects the content to some of these bigger picture issues. So things like, lead in water or
Yeah.
air quality, climate change issues. So those examples help give, big picture context for the students when they're studying these kind of nitty gritty details of this chemistry content.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the explorations. That's definitely for me in using RealChem. So this is my third semester using the platform. The explorations have been really useful as having basically an exercise in a textbook that supports the way I like to teach. So just like you, I like to teach from an environmental science, environmental issues and challenges perspective, especially in a place like Southern California, where we worry about air quality and also water quality. There was actually a study that was done last year. The results were released last year in the city, in the area of Watts in South Los Angeles, where there were elevated uh, levels of lead, and it's been historic. So it's been interesting to connect timely issues like that to what the students are seeing in the explorations. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that you have incorporated the explorations into your teaching. And so let's talk a little bit about so you have some mentoring experience, and what I imagine as well, especially being in a small class, you have more of an opportunity to engage and work with students and see where they're at. tell me a little bit about what that's been like.
Yeah, I really enjoy the kind of mentoring aspect of my position,
Mm-hmm.
and having a small class size is great with really
Mm-hmm.
being able to connect with those students. So while we're doing group assignments, in class, I kind of mill about the room and check in with all of the groups, and I can really, talk with each of the students in the class and see what they're interested in, see what they're struggling with, and really help them out.
And tell me, so tell me a little bit about what they're struggling with, and what perhaps some takeaways, lessons that they're learning as they go through that, through that process.
Yeah, so I definitely see students struggling with the math aspects of
Mm-hmm.
some of these assignments. So just being able to kind of pull out some of that algebra
Mm-hmm.
needed for stoichiometry, dimensional analysis type questions. So being able to see and kind of check in with individual student progress helps me to see, where they're at, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe give me some ideas of things that we can go through together, or really start to tailor the assignments, build in some more scaffolding into the group assignments as needed for the for my different classes.
Got it. And so I've heard you mention math a couple of times already, and I think I definitely see this in my class, where we do serve many of our non-science, non-engineering, non-STEM majors, and there's a lot of tendency of to say, oh, I'm not a science person, or not a math person, which comes up more often. How do you see that in your class often as well? And especially since folks do tend to struggle a little bit with the math part.
I do. I hear that quite frequently, and
Mm.
I do try to discourage students from saying that they're not a math person. I don't believe them when they say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know everyone's coming in with different backgrounds in math,
Mm-hmm.
right? Different experiences, some negative, some positive experiences with previous math and maybe previous science classes. But I do try to, get students past that initial, fear or,
Yeah.
apprehension of the math. And, if I have to take, break down the math just step by step, so students are able to make those connections and see that,
Yeah.
if we can get through this algebra, then we can relate it to that chemistry context, and it shows us all of these really interesting things. Right, the power of stoichiometry, right? I love
Ah.
when I see students, like, the light bulb goes off. We're like, oh my gosh, if I just like look at the units, and I can rearrange these and set up these calculations.
Yeah.
So it's just, a struggle, as we know, to get to every student to get to that light bulb moment. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the small class size definitely helps, and chatting in office hours or in laboratory, of course, really helps to make sure to get every student to really start to connect with the math, get to that light bulb moment, hopefully, of understanding how we can just use algebra to do stoichiometry.
Are you ready to elevate your brand and captivate your audience? At Partner in Publishing, our video marketing services are all about turning your ideas into captivating visual narratives. Whether it's a compelling promotional video, engaging social media content, or informative tutorials, we've got you covered. Our expert team works closely with you to create videos that not only look amazing, but also drive results. Don't just be seen, be remembered. Visit partnerpublishing.com today and discover how we can help you outshine the competition.
Yeah, I find that algebra definitely serves us in a lot of different ways. Yeah, so let's talk about stoichiometry a little bit. And I know what I found is that, and like you mentioned earlier, when you talk about food in chemistry, it just makes it that much easier to talk about. I know for me, I use a lot of cooking examples, food examples when we first talk about stoichiometry. I like opening that lesson with, what was the thing that you cooked today? What is the thing that you cooked recently? And tell me the recipe. And then it's just like the students just, well, I cooked this. I made breakfast. I made an omelet. I made, as someone had mentioned at some point, I made tres leches. I was like, wow, okay, that is a fancy that is a fancy dessert. And in using food examples, perhaps in your teaching, could you tell us a little bit about perhaps examples that you've offered, and then how useful have those been?
Yeah. So actually, one activity we just used that I designed was looking at a 3-ingredient peanut butter cookie recipe, or if allergies are present, then sunflower butter cookie, would also be
Oh,
delicious.
okay.
So just a 3-ingredient recipe, and
Mm-hmm.
I give them, I give different groups different amounts of each of the ingredients. So
Okay.
unfortunately, we don't use real ingredients, but simulated. So they get like half of an egg carton to represent 6 eggs, but they get these like tangible like ingredient box, empty box of brown sugar, and they have to figure out what's your limiting reactant, or what's the ingredient that's going to run out first when you're following this recipe and
Mm-hmm.
making these peanut butter or sunflower butter cookies. So the students find it really interesting to connect it to, connect the stoichiometry to a cooking example, and to really have these like tangible ingredients. So it also pulls in like some really great content of like, how do I convert a teaspoon as listed on the package to a cup? And how's that relevant to like moles? So it really helps them bring, a real life example to these stoichiometry, especially limiting reactant calculations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from my experience of using Real Chem, there are quite a bit of exercises, whether it's with the checkpoints or the explorations, that support thinking around stoichiometry. Tell me a little bit about what your experience of those have been, or perhaps if you're able to share some of your students' experiences with those exercises.
Yeah, so I do appreciate the real chemistry, especially like the checkpoint questions,
Mm-hmm.
giving, applying the stoichiometry in slightly different ways, so students
Yes.
can really, wrap their heads around not just following a pattern, right, but really understanding the content and figuring out how to apply this method, um, these relationships, right? It just comes down to like ratios when you're thinking about
Ex-
stoichiometry.
exactly.
These ratios of moles. How can we apply that to a whole variety of different types of questions?
Awesome. So, next steps, lessons learned, right? What do you plan to do differently next time when you use RealChem?
So I feel like the one feature that I have not utilized as well as I could is the exploration assignments. So
Mm,
the initial feedback that I got from students are those exploration assignments. They're really interesting, but I have
hmm
a hard time connecting them directly with like how this is going to help me on the exam in class. So I think it's one thing I'd like to work towards next semester, and I'll be using it in general chemistry too, is to really help connect those exploration assignments, those topics covered in the exploration assignments, more in lecture, to really highlight the importance of these topics and really connect it, make a better flow between the outside of classwork and in classwork.
Well, we're definitely going to have have to have another podcast about this because I'm the other way. I haven't really used the checkpoints so much, but yeah, let's do the explorations, right? Because that definitely what caught my eye, especially the water quality one and the climate change one. It made it really it made it real. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Especially the water quality one where it explores what's happening in different countries and just water security. We're gonna have to swap notes for next semester. That's for sure. Okay, so as we wrap up this podcast, so again, thank you for sharing your experience. Just really nice to just check in and see what's happening. Again, different contexts and different university contexts. So it's always nice to know and learn what folks are doing across different institutions and different disciplines. So, like quick lightning round. What is your favorite instrument? Doesn't have to be a chemistry one either.
Sure, I thought musical instrument, but my favorite analytical
Okay.
instrument is an
Yeah.
ion chromatograph. It's one of the first instruments I used, and it just holds a special place in my heart.
Right. I mean, somewhere along those lines too, I really like the burette, just the basic, just, just make having that quantitative wash, just to get that last, that perfect drop, right? So that's definitely my favorite instrument. I mean, musical. I've been playing the piano since I was a kid, so that's my favorite musical instrument. Do you have one as well?
I have a fondness for the bagpipes, actually. Scottish Highland
Ah,
bagpipes are really fun.
That's really cool. It feels so like majestic, right? I've been watching The Crown, if you're familiar with that on Netflix. I'm watching it for the second time, so that definitely comes up for me. Favorite molecule.
This is a tricky one, but I
Okay.
think I'm going to have to say limonene.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a close race with some of the fun scented volatile organic compounds, but limonene,
Yeah.
I think, for the citrus, right? Just that it smells so nice.
Just what?
But
Yeah.
it's one of those examples in chemistry, though, where, it seems like pretty harmless molecule, but, when you think of an air quality context, VOCs, if you have the presence of VOCs and
Yeah.
ozone could form secondary organic aerosol, and there's this whole complex,
It's
series
a
of
whole.
reaction mechanisms that
It's
can
a
set
whole
off. So just
thing,
that would help.
right? Yeah. It smells so good, but it's toxic. Oh no. Yeah. I personally like cinnamaldehyde, especially since the holidays are coming up. So it's definitely a favorite. I can't pick one. It's very hard. Favorite chemistry in everyday life moments, or perhaps moments if it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, also hard to pick.
Mhm.
But I think being able to describe the process of making ice cream with freezing point depression is a really
Yes.
fun one.
Do you have a favorite flavor?
Of ice cream? Oh gosh, no, all flavors.
No. Yeah, I mean, like mine ranges. Vanilla, right? Vanilla. And then coffee flavors. But yeah, it's again just like the favorite molecule. It's just hard to pick one when they all smell so good, but can be so toxic. So folks, Ashley, thank you for this time together. It's been really nice to reflect and discuss. No matter how big or how small or what context you're teaching chemistry in, it's been really nice to just share ideas and discuss how to make chemistry more real for students. So, and to our audience, if you're listening, for folks out there, our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you find something real and that's chemistry related in your life today, whether it's a cup of coffee or perhaps as the smell of cinnamaldehyde since the holidays are coming up. So again, thank you for tuning in, and we will. I want to say see you next time, but maybe we'll hear from each other next time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of EdTech Elevated, powered by Partner in Publishing. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and informative. Don't forget to subscribe and stay connected for more insightful conversations with EdTech leaders and innovators. Until next time, follow us on social to keep up with the latest trends in the world of EdTech. I'm Lisa March, and this is EdTech Elevated.